Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our EZClaim Billing Service webinar that we'll be doing today. I'd like to thank you for joining. We're doing this webinar specifically for billing services to show features in Premier that might benefit you as a billing service. If you're just starting out with Premier, I would suggest signing up for our Getting Started with Premier webinar and our Moving Forward with Premier webinar to help get familiar with the program. Each of these are available for viewing at EZClaim.com. While I'm going through the demonstration, please enter any questions into our GoToMeeting question box, which is located on the right-hand side of your screen. And understand that we can only answer program-related questions in this webinar. If you have specific issues you need help with, please call us or send an email to support@EZClaim.com. Okay, I've already shared my screen. Everybody should be able to see that at this point. And the first thing I always like to do at the beginning of my webinars is to show you where you can always find detailed help information about the program. And that's on our top ribbon bar here under our Help Topics. This icon is available regardless of which ribbon you may be on. And you can just click it to open up our Help Topics where you can search context, our index, or even search by keywords. And so let's go back to our program here. So Premier is great for billing services for many reasons. The biggest reason is the ability to split your doctors or provider offices into separate databases. In Premier, we refer to them as company files, and you can access your different company files by clicking on our orange EZ up here at the top left corner of the program. And in here, you'd be able to click on Open Company and see your different providers. You just click on the one that you want to get into and click OK. Any recent companies that you've been in and out of, you will be listed right here, and you can pin your most frequently used ones up at the top. Now, having your providers split into the different company files keeps all of your data separate, including all of your libraries, which means your physician libraries, procedure code libraries, all of your reports, all of your claim batches, and EDI reports are all kept separate from each other in their separate company files. If you're set up with TriZetto as a clearinghouse, they set you up as a billing service and will assign you like a parent site. That's kind of your billing service. And all of the different providers are called child sites for TriZetto. That correlates to Premier, as you would set up all of your child sites as separate company files, and each one of them would have their own separate site ID to be entered in. Now, that being said, some offices do prefer to have just one company file and all of their doctors just in that one single database. And that's fine too. Premier can handle it either way. If you choose to just have the one company file, Premier has other ways to help you specify which provider or which doctor you're looking at, such as classifications, which I have here, for example, on my patient quick access pane. You can easily just sort by specific classification so you're only seeing that patient list. Now, if you are using multiple company files, you can set up each one specific to that office, which comes in handy, especially if you're billing for different specialties. To set up your company file to start, you can access that by going up onto your top ribbon bars, into Tools, and into your Program Setup. And I recommend this for anybody accessing the program for the first time. Once you're in the Setup tab, you can click through our different options here listed on the left, and to just tell the program how you would like your data treated. Some of it is some very cosmetic things, and some of them are fine-grained, such as in general, we just have a typical theme selection that you could switch to. Main screen, you can choose whether you want your patient panes on the left or right. Through patient, you can tell it if you want to automatically generate account numbers. Do you want them to be unique? Is there a certain number you'd like them to start with? All can be set up in here. This is where you can also set up any custom fields that you might want for your program. Again, any custom fields are for internal viewing. These fields do not go out on claims, but they can help you with your querying your own data. It's also in these setups where you can set any claim defaults, such as place of service, the initial claim status, payment options. A whole list of options here are for you. And again, these are separate for each company file. Now, once you've made a decision of how you're going to divide up your data, whether it will be one company file or multiple, the next thing you want to do is set up your Premier users. This is especially important if you are in a multi-user office. Premier can help you track and identify activity of users within the program. And I want to point out, too, that if you are a cloud of ours, these users are different than your cloud login. So if we go into to set up users, you're going to access that in your Manage Security settings. Over on the left-hand side, you can see I have a handful of users set up, including myself. You can set passwords and select which permissions each user will have, whether it be full permissions or limited permissions. Once users are set up, you can see a log of their activity. And we have a log button that is available over here to the right-hand side. It'll just show their simple login and log out times and from what computer they did it from. This is a good screen for me to point out if you're not setting up individual users within your program, everybody and everything just gets tagged as generic user, and you would have a hard time differentiating who did what. And so this displays it earlier today and earlier in the week. You can see I was just in as a generic user, not myself. When I logged in this morning, it started to track me individually as a user. So we also have reports that will show a summary of user activity, and they're available on our Reports tab over on the left-hand side. Down at the bottom here, we have a user patient activity report. I'll just do a simple preview. And you can see our different users, what accounts they were in. Just a very simple log. Now, I actually find the user setup useful within the find fields. Say in find claim, you can bring in your created or modified user to know who created the patient and who was the last time to modify. And again, if you're seeing some blank spots, it's because earlier in the program I wasn't logged in as a user, and that's what this is displaying in those blank spots. So those are handy to track any staff activity within the office. Now, if you want to see the activity specifically, we can open up a claim to look and see. So I'm going to look at patient Brooks here and look at their record, actually their claim. And we can see I was logged in as admin back in February when I created and edited this claim. And I'm going to show you a small feature here. I'm going to expand our claim note, and we have our notes button over here on the left-hand side. And when I expand these to bring them up to more full screen, you can see that these do have headers. And when you hide your notes or shrink them down, those do disappear. I can just help you with looking at some of your data. Kind of a hidden feature that I always like to show. Now, if you've noticed, I've clicked into our find grid here. I'm in our find claim. And Premier utilizes grids all throughout the program, not just in our find fields either. Our quick access panes over on the left-hand side are grids as well. And so are the claim screens. Your service lines are a simple grid setup. And you'll see this too in patient statements. When this tab opens up, it is just a simple grid layout that will allow you to use the grid features within the screen, which I will go over here shortly. So in our Getting Started webinar, I go over some of the basic actions for the grids, such as sorting and filtering. Please feel free to watch that webinar. It's available on EZClaim.com. And the find grids are a fantastic tool for looking at your data as a whole, but they're very powerful too. And we've recently added some features that our billing services have given us positive feedback on. The first, and I think one of the best of those new features, is the ability to easily do actions in bulk, such as changing claim status. An example would be moving a claim from on hold to ready to submit. You can easily check the status of your claims in this Find Claim grid. And if you were ready to change a status, instead of opening the claim and having to go to it, you can now just give it a simple right click, and you can set your claim status to whatever you need it to be. To do this in bulk, you can highlight the top one that you need, hold your Shift key, highlight the bottom one that you need. It will select the whole run. You can right click and change the status of all. An extreme time saver if you're doing a heavy volume of billing. Now there's other features that are available with our right-click actions within the grids. We're in our Find Claim grid, and as you saw demonstrated, I can change the claim status. You can also apply an adjustment to write off a claim. You can apply a payment to pay off a claim, and you can create tasks as well. One of the other newer features that was entered in recently is the ability to create claim notes right from the grid. And to demonstrate that, I'll actually use my patient Brooks here. And I'll just create a simple note. Oops. And you just type in your simple note, click OK. And that added claim notes to these 3 claims for Brooks. And let's go ahead and take a look at those. As you can see down here at the bottom, you can see my new note that was added. And it's extremely efficient to be able to add notes to multiple claims at once. Now, I'd like to point out here, too, that if you're manually entering in a claim note, either for your patient notes or claim notes, you can make use of our note template, and this makes it very easy to enter in frequently used notes. So I was just able to right-click and add in a predefined note, and those can be set up in your code library, or sorry, our note template library. You can name the note and then put in your text. The program can handle many notes there. And then to access them, you can just right-click and insert your note template. It makes it extremely efficient. Okay, let's jump back to the find claims, and I just want to go over a little bit more in depth some of those bulk options. I had said how you can write off or pay off selected claims. And this is an easy feature to do just by right-clicking. An example would be, say, if you needed to apply an adjustment for old balances that you're no longer going to be able to collect, you can do so by just selecting them, clicking right off, and you can add in any adjustments here that you would need. So you can even create your own reason codes. For our webinar here, I've created my own write-off code, and I'm just going to type in W to bring me to it, and here's my custom code. And you can have it tagged as whatever you need. Click yes. And that has applied an adjustment to our claims. And you can even see that it's added that to our notes here. And if I shrink this down, you can see my adjustment here. It entered in a $50 adjustment to write off the entire balance. So once again, you can change your claim status, write off a claim, enter in payments, create tasks, and create notes, all from a right-click within your Find grids. As a reminder, all of the grids are customizable per user. So while I'm logged in as Jamie and I have mine set up in a certain specific way, if somebody else were to come into the office and log in, say, as Sandy, they could have their grid set up in a completely different way. It is user specific. Now, another new feature that we've added in here that we've gotten good feedback on from our billing service clients is the ability to save a layout, or another description of that might be to save a query of your data. And again, this is available in all of the Find grids. To show an example, say you were working on claims for a certain patient, actually. I'll even just keep using Brooks here as my example. Once I have my data filtered, I say, you know what, I want to see a list of his claims at all times. You can save the layout. I'll name it. Another example might be if you were just looking to check your on-hold claims quickly. And those are going to save down here at the bottom of your screen for quick reference. So if I close my grid and come back to it, those are there now for me to just quickly go to without having to redo the search. Now within these fields, as well as saving your layout, if you're looking to have a query of your data saved a little more permanently, you can create a widget. And we've had this technology available within the program since the beginning. And that's what you see on your Home tab here. And I'm going to jump back to my Home tab. These are your widgets here. And you can create your own widgets from any of your data. As you can see, I have a lot of them here that we've created. And to do so, say if we were just looking for claims for a certain rendering provider, I can query that data and I just filter to my certain rendering. And we give you an option to add as widget. We can name it, set some descriptions or other parameters for it. And now you can see that right here. So depending on your office needs, Premier is very useful to be able to create your own widgets for scenarios that you have going on that affect you and your data. Now, one of the last features in our Find Grids I'd like to go over is our Create Task. So from any of our claims here, because we happen to be in Find Claim, you can right-click and create a task. Now, Premier makes use of a task system to help you with follow-up. And tasks can be created from many different places within the program. Not just from our Find field here, but also from our Quick Access pane. And you can do so from claims as well. From an open claim, I can jump up top to my claim ribbon and create a task with just one click of the button. Now, if you are a TriZetto sender using an SFTP connection, so sending your claims electronically to TriZetto, tasks can be created from your claim rejections. I'm actually going to open my Find task here. Ensuring that they don't get ignored. I go over this process of creating tasks from the EDI reports in my EDI reports webinar. And you can view that at EZClaim.com. In our opinion, that's just one of the greatest ways to keep track of any rejected claims, any issues that are going on, to create a task to be able to follow up on them, assign them to other people, and generally have a log of any issues that you have going on in your program between clients and patients. Again, when you're in Find Task, they have some right-click options so that you can mark them, change their status, set their priority, assign to other users, remove reminders, or even delete the task in whole if it's been completed or doesn't apply anymore. Extremely useful system. You can view your task not only in the big grid under our Find task, but you can also view it in your Task Quick Access pane, which will give you some options here to control what you actually see in your pane here, whether you want to see tasks that are assigned to others and even tasks that may be completed. So one of the things I wanted to go over in this webinar is something we call our validation rules. Premier makes use of the validation rules within the program. And if you're an existing user, you may already be using them without even knowing it. Validation rules are just a set of rules that will check your data entry for any errors. This does not validate codes. It just is a simple check to see if you have any missing elements that might be required. A good example of this, of a validation rule that's already in the program that you may have seen, is within our physician library. If you try to create an entry and have some features missing, and I'm just going to kind of fill one in here. Now here we'll go. And so if I happen to miss having in some data in here, if I try to save the entry, it's going to warn me that, one, I'm missing a zip code. Okay. And now it's telling me that I need a tax ID for this field. And if I try one more time, there we go, and it got us through. So there are some predefined validation rules within the program. Another example of them are in our Send Claims tab, in our Check for Errors button that's up in the top right-hand corner. This is checking up against our validation rules for sending claims. Checking to see if that there's a billing provider, if it's a secondary claim, it's looking for a primary payment. So as Premier clients, you actually have the ability to kind of set your own validation rules. And you can do so by accessing the validation library. And this is kind of an Easter egg feature or hidden feature within the program. If you have interest in setting up some validation rules, please contact us either through support@EZClaim.com or even giving us a call. We'd be more than happy to go over setting up a validation rule for you. As I said, this is a little high end and it is kind of a hidden feature. So I'm not expecting anyone to already know how to do this or to be able to jump right in to do themselves. Just kind of showing it to show you what is available. And so I'm going to go ahead and open up my validation rule. And you get a list here, so we can set up rules for sending claims, saving a patient, saving a payer library entry, or saving a physician library entry, which is one that we had just looked at, or is requiring a zip code and tax ID. And I'm going to look at our sending claims one. So it'll just list the rules here. And we have some already set up in here, say for a missing payer ID. So it doesn't check necessarily that it's a valid payer ID. It's just going to check that you have one on there. One of the requests that we've received multiple times is to set up a validation rule for checking patient relationship to insured, to make sure that it is checked as spouse or child if it's not self. That is a common one that we've set up. So once again, if you have an interest in the validation rules, if you think that that would benefit your office, give us a call. We'd be happy to go over them with us and maybe help you set some up for that. And lastly, one of the bigger features I think our billing services can benefit from with EZClaim Premier is our EZClaim portal. This is a new product that we've recently introduced. Its proper name is EZClaim Portal. And this will allow you to give providers access to some reports without giving them complete access to your Premier program. They will only be able to see what you want them to. And with this feature, you can really ease the communication with you and your providers. So I'm going to jump over to our demo portal real quick just to show you this. And I've already logged into the portal. And so what it will allow you to do is it will allow you to set up what you want your providers to be able to see, whether you want them to see your patients, some preset widgets. And you have to excuse me while I log in again real quickly. One moment. It is secure, so it timed out and logged me out. There we go. So we have our patient list. You can set up different widgets. You can give them preset reports to work. And you can control which reports they have access to. Again, this is complete control on your end as to what they have access to. Just to give you some generic info on this, portal is $10 per user per month. We do have an EZClaim portal webinar coming up in June for this new product. Please check our webinar schedule at EZClaim.com for further information. And you can email support@EZClaim.com if you have some questions right now about it. Again, this does wrap up my billing service webinar. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has. But I did just want to take a moment to say thank you for joining, and please look at our webinar calendar for additional webinars we may have coming up. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Okay, so I have a good question here. Can the notes be displayed in the Find Claim tab? So if we go into our Find Claim, and we would look for that option by right-clicking and getting into our column chooser. And let's see if I have note available. I think it would be under Claim Note. And I'm just flipping through here. I'm pretty positive Claim Note isn't available at this level, but I do know where you can get it. We actually separate them out. Yep, so these are all the fields that you have in Find Claim. If we go back up to our Find fields, if you want to search your notes or see them, we actually have it as its own separate grid. And here is where you can search your notes. Excellent. I didn't have any starting with rejected. So you can go through here. Again, you have all of your different column choosers. Once you find what you are looking for, a specific note, you can go right to that claim. Like the rest of the grids, it does have right-click features that you can apply right to the claim. Yep. Any notes that you add into the claims do automatically update here. As you can see, even from my created date here, I've entered in a lot of different notes, even during the webinar, and they're all listed up here at the top. So one of the other questions I have in here is how to run an AR report. There are a lot of different ways to run an AR report within the Premier program. We have a defined report list available over here in the upper left-hand corner. And although we do have a defined AR report, accounts receivable, that's not what I would recommend using. I would actually use our claim list. It's a simple, more straightforward list. You can choose specific criteria that you want it to be on. So especially, say, if you just wanted to see claims that have a minimum balance of $1, you can set your parameter in there to show you any claims that have a balance. And this will really give you a list of any claims that you want in your program. You have totals at the bottom, and these can be subgrouped and divided out in many different ways. For billing services, I actually really do like our insurance follow-up report. This will show you what's outstanding, and it's useful if you're doing claim follow-up. I'll just do a quick preview here. Again, it prints in landscape, gives you some white area, does display the patient date of birth and insured ID information, as well as codes and what the aging is of the balance. And again, there is a defined AR report. I'll preview this so you can see what it looks like. It'll give you what you need. Like I said, I think we have other reports in the program that will give you that information in a much easier viewing. All right, and if nobody else has any questions, I'll go ahead and wrap up our webinar. Again, if something comes into mind as I end the session, feel free to give us a call or email support@EZClaim.com. We'd be more than happy to answer your questions. This does conclude our billing service webinar. Thank you all for attending, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.